First of all, if you have not watched my class library video, I highly encourage you to go back and watch my class library video. We'll be referencing the code from the class library video. I'll put a link in the description. So this is a continuation of that code. In this tutorial, we will implement a unit test for this class library logic, which is a FizzBuzz program. So in order to add the unit test, let's click onto the solution. Now we right click it and press add, and we'll say new project. And over here we will say on the project type xUnit, which will be our unit test project. Now if I double click this, now I will rename my project name as fizzbuzz.test, and if I click on next, now I will click on create. So what this has done is, now this has added a FizzBuzz test project in here. Now let us add the dependencies so that we can call in the test and test our logic. So all we need to do is, in the FizzBuzz test, we need to click on dependencies, we need to right click, add project reference, click on FizzBuzz library, because that is where our code is. Console, we don't want to select the console app 1 because it only contains the user interface. FizzBuzz library is where our actual logic code is, which we want to test. Now I press OK. The first thing we will do is we will rename this unit test 1 to something else. Select this and right click it, rename it, and I will rename it to FizzBuzz test. Now I'll hit enter. Now I'll say yes. So it has now changed my class name to FizzBuzz test. Let me quickly describe how testing works. Normally for test to work, we need to carry out 3 main activities. Number 1 activity is to arrange the data. Number 2 activity is to act upon the data. And number 3 activity is assert. This is comparing the existing and the actual data to figure out whether the test has passed or not. So let's look into this. If we come to our FizzBuzz, we have several different conditions. So the first condition is checking if the number is divisible by 3 and 5. So we will test for that condition. So let's come over here and I will rename my method name as divisible by 3 and 5. Now I will need to arrange my data. In this case, we don't need to arrange our data because I'm using a static method, so I do not need to create an instance of this method. So I don't need to create an instance of the class FizzBuzz and then use this method, because my method is already static, so I can directly call from it. So we can skip this arrange section. So what I can do is I can say my expected value, which is of string type, will return FizzBuzz, and I will also say my string actual will be, now I will call in FizzBuzz dot, I cannot see my method over here. Oh, I need to call in before I can access this fizzbuzz method, which is a get fizzbuzz. So before I can access this get fizzbuzz method inside this fizzbuzz.cs, I need to use this statement using fizzbuzz library. So think of this as an import statement in C++. Now we should be able to call in our fizzbuzz library dot fizzbuzz.get fizzbuzz, and I can pass in a number 15. I've selected 15 because 15 is divisible by 3 and by 5. Now, so this is the act stage. Now we need to assert it, and all we need to do is we need to type in assert equal expected and actual. You cannot have it the other way around. It needs to be expected and actual. So now what it does is it compares the expected and the actual values and then runs the test. So we need to see the text explorer. At the moment I cannot see the text explorer anyway. So let's come to view and click on test explorer. Now it should be able to see a test, fizzbuzz test divisible by 3 and 5. If I hit run all test, then it should run the test. It's taking some time. Yes, you can see a tick. Green tick means the test has passed. So if I click on this, then you can see it has passed. If I put in something else, if I put in a number that is not divisible by 3 and 5, let's say 1, then the test should fail. Let's check that. Now if I run again the test, then this time the test should fail. Yeah, you can see it says failed. So I'll change this back to 15. However, as a general rule of thumb, we don't want to just test one number. We want to test as many numbers as possible. How can we do that? In order to do that, we can, instead of the fact, we can use a theory. So basically, whenever you run your test and you're testing with a single data point like this, then you can use a fact. However, if you want to test for multiple data points, then the easiest way to do this is use theory. So if I say theory, now what I can do is I can say my int number, and I will pass in this number over here. So this number is passed over here, and what I will say is I will say string expected, and I will just set my string expected as fizzbuzz. So basically what we are doing is we are passing in two parameters, number, which gets assigned to this function get fizzbuzz, and expected, because this method is checking if the number is divisible by 3 and 5, and the outcome of that should be fizzbuzz. I've set my expected value as a fizzbuzz. Now what I can do is I can come over here and I can simply write inline data. It's just an inline data, open close brackets, and now if I say 15 and fizzbuzz, I need to delete this because I can directly pass in my argument over here. Let me make this a small letter. Now if I hit my test, run, then should yield same results. However, this time around what I can do is I can pass in multiple data points and check. So pass in all of the numbers that are divisible by 3 and 5 should test results as passed. So if I click on this little arrow over here and further little arrow over here, then it says divisible by 3 and 5. All of it, the test has passed. Now what I can do is I can test for other conditions. So if I simply copy this method and say theory and paste that method which I've copied, now this time around I'll say divisible by 3, and if I say inline data and if I pass in 3 comma phase, and if I do the same thing for a couple of steps, I'll pass in all the numbers divisible by 3. If I hit run, then you can see divisible by 3 and all of the test condition has passed. So basically we are doing the same thing. We are passing in a number and this is our expected parameter. This time, because we are checking if the number is divisible by 3, we are passing in a phase as our expected value, and we are passing in all of the numbers which are divisible by 3. Then we are calling in our get fizzBuzz method from the fizzBuzz, and we are checking if they are matching with each other. So in this case it is matching, so both of the tests have passed. So this is how you do the unit test. So if I repeat the same thing, if I copy this across, now we need to check for condition. Now we need to check if the number is divisible by 5. So if I will just say divisible by 5, and this time around we will say buzz and I will pass all of the numbers which are divisible by 5. 20, 15 and 25. Now if I hit again run, should show me all the results. Somewhere something happened. It's saying, why is this not passing? Oh sorry, 15 is both divisible by 3 and 5, so it doesn't say buzz, it will say fizzBuzz. So I need to change this to maybe 50. Now all the tests should pass. Yes, as expected. And now we will check for the final condition, and the final condition is if none of them are divisible by 3, 5, then should return the string value. So just 5 as a string, 20 as a string, 50 as a string, and oh sorry, what am I doing? So if I say 1, then this should also do 1. If I say 2, this should also say 2. If I say 7, this should also say 7. And if I say 6, this should also say 6. and this should be not divisible by 3 and 5. Let me run this. Somewhere something is went wrong. Oh, 6, because 6 is divisible by 3. So I need to say 7 instead of 7. Let's pick up 17. And it should say 17. Now if I run my test, then you can see not divisible by 3 and 5. All the tests have passed. So this is how we can perform our unit test against our code logic.